Did you go down a darker road than you had been before with the alcohol?
Way worse. I was a judge for an event in the Road to Town Park Hotel. I think there was like 600 people there, and I had been drinking and taking Xanax as well on the same night, and I got so drunk I had to be carried out. And I suppose I look back now, my poor father's gone, and I get emotional all the time over this. I just get very upset that I let him know. It hurt when he was alive, and it hurts now to even think, the disappointment. Of course there's that grief in me, but like my message of hope is for anyone who is in the grips of addiction now, who feels like there is no hope. There is. For anyone who's new in recovery, there's a great life out there.
Brenda Dennehy, what a pleasure it is to have you in the hot seat.
Delighted to be here.
Is your bum warm?
Very
it's
warm.
Very hot seat, isn't
Loving the studio. Loving the studio. No, I'm delighted to be here, and I'm an OG fan. I was following you now since 2020. I got you on Red FM back in 2020.
Yes, and I was getting messages from you about the vaccines and stuff.
Yeah, and you were absolutely brilliant. And then 4 years on, people were like, do you follow the Fabulous Pharmacist? I was like, of course I do.
You're like, I was her first follower, okay?
Yeah. And then my mum was scrolling online on Instagram there a couple of weeks ago, and she's like, I love this Fabulous Pharmacist one. I was like, that's Laura Dowling. I was like, I know her of old. And I was like, I'm going on her podcast. She couldn't believe it.
Oh,
and she really wanted to go to your show. Only then I think it was my niece's communion. She couldn't go.
It was, yeah. But
so,
you know what? The next time.
Absolutely. But look, I'm an OG fan. It's so great to meet you. And I do love your podcast. And this was the reason I kind of wanted to do your podcast was for a number of reasons. I think I first reached out to you, just wanted you to chat about like being child free. Because, I think in Ireland as well, there's such a thing that the family's such a big unit. And I spoke not so long ago about wanting to be child free. And Jesus, people were like going, will you come on the radio and all this? I can't believe that you don't want children and all this. And it's like this big taboo. But since
there's a lot of chatter around the family, and
yes,
the family being mum, dad, or mum, dad, and child, isn't that right? Whereas there's a lot of people that are choosing the child-free existence at the minute, and by the lack of wrinkles in your face, I can tell that it's working for you anyway.
Well, do you know what when people say, you're childless, I don't like the term childless. I prefer child-free. I think childless is kind of like less than, whereas child-free is like a decision, choice. Yeah. So, I'm 39, child-free. That was the first reason I wanted to come on the podcast. But I suppose the main one now, ever since the last couple of weeks, I shared my own story about addiction and recovery, and I had wanted to share it with a while. It's nothing new because I'm 5 years now in recovery again, and I suppose when I hit the 5 years I felt secure enough to chat about it, so I thought no one better than you to open up about it as well, because part of the addiction story is about medication, obviously you being a pharmacist, so I was thinking you'd be a great one to speak about it. But I suppose to go back about the addiction, I suppose I look back on my addiction story and I remember, like, even as a child suffering with the anxiety, because obviously that's why I was on the Xanax in later years. I was suffering from anxiety, I think, from a 6 or 7 year old.
And what did that look like for a 6 or 7 year old? Anxiety. Can you explain that?
I think, do you know what, I used to always nearly obsess with things. Like, I used to be obsessed with the time. I used to have a little timetable when I was 6 or 7. Like, as in, get up at like 7 o'clock, dress bed at 7:05, brush teeth at 7:10. And if I brushed my teeth at 7:11, I'd have a little kind of mental breakdown.
Oh.
My day would be ruined.
Okay.
My day would be ruined. And the thing is, no one at home was telling me to get up with this or anything like that. Like, my parents are probably still in bed. My brothers and sister would still be in bed. But I had this thing where I had to have this little routine or something. Okay. I don't think it was a strive for perfection. But it was just, I suppose my mind was probably never...
Is it like a ritual to make yourself feel secure, maybe?
Yeah, I feel it was something like that. So I suppose looking back then, and I do look at like old family events. I hated going to a family event. I hated it. I didn't hate the people. But now I look back, I was like, oh my God, I like social anxiety from an 8 or 9 year old. I hate them. Like, I was so shy. I didn't want to talk to anyone of my cousins or anything like that. And they're lovely people. But if there was a family event, I would dread it for the week. Dread it.
And are you still like that with the social anxiety? Because people would assume that someone like yourself, with your own really successful podcast and a bit out there, would not have social anxiety. But sometimes it's actually the opposite, that someone like you is actually does have it, yeah?
I would when it comes to, I would have a big imposter syndrome, but I think we all have that. Going on dates, massive social anxiety, but that just might be dates. I'm a holy show going on a date. Certain social anxiety, I would still have a bit of it. Meeting new people, I didn't have it now today with you. I felt very warm and comfortable. I felt like I know you from Instagram anyway. But certain circumstances, I would play it up in my head and I'd be dreading it for the week.
Okay, yeah.
But I always know it's going to be okay. But it's just the lead up to, and I'm kind of trying to reassure my mind. So much better, but like struggled with it from a very young age. And I think I actually struggled with it up until like the last 3 or 4 years.
Okay.
Even my new recovery, I suppose the last 5 years, I was still that bit anxious. And I suppose to get over the anxiety in later years, I was just downing it with Xanax or alcohol. So, but I suppose to go back and kind of map back how it was happening, I remember like my first like mini like mental breakdown that I actually remember losing the plot, and like the world had ended because I had a bit of OCD as well when it came to turning off lights and all that kind of stuff, and OCD with cleaning. You know the way people say, oh, I'm obsessed with cleaning. No, I mean I was addicted to it. Like I wanted to take out the red hot ashes in the fire in the morning, like 5 a.m. before my mum and dad got up, because I just wanted to have the house clean. But like this, we read raw, and my mother and father would be kind of like, what are you doing? Like you're gonna like the plastic bucket is going to be melt. Okay. And I was like, I had to clean it. I look back, it's kind of funny. I wanted to go hoovering at 6 a.m. in the morning. Nothing more. Like but no one was telling me to do it. They were actually telling me stop. But I wanted to go hoovering, and I never forget. I was after cleaning all the stairs, and my sister, we had horses out the back, and she was after feeding them, and there was like sawdust and everything. She walked up the stairs, and there was sawdust everywhere, and I lost it. I'll never forget. And it was like a massive, it was like someone died. It was like the horrific crying. Do you know that crying when you just can't control it? It was like that. And I suppose I mapped back like the kind of, don't want to kind of say mental health in it, because, you know, that's too much of a loose term. Then I suppose I was just an anxious child. Yeah. But no one was making me anxious or anything. It was just in me. So in later years, then I suppose...
And after that horse sawdust thing, did your parents kind of go, Jesus, Brenda, do you need a little bit of help? Or was
it was more like, it's okay, like she didn't mean it, and you know, that kind of thing. There was never anything like that, because I suppose the point I'd like to get across as well is that my parents gave me a wonderful childhood. Yeah. You know, beautiful parents. My dad has since passed, but like I'm great friends with my sister, my two brothers to this day. No little like tips and stuff like that, but great childhood, like nothing but happy memories in the house.
So you have one sister and two brothers. That's like me.
Same as you. Yeah. Are you the youngest? No,
I'm the eldest.
Oh yeah, I'm the youngest then.
And we like that. You know, sometimes I've gone to talks and people are talking about their trauma and about their childhood, you know, terrible past and stuff, and I'm just sitting there going, I can't relate to this, because I literally had like such a good upbringing. Mum and dad were just brilliant, and like you, get on so well with my siblings, which is great. But so many people don't have that lovely, you know, memory of childhood. I just want to ask you one other thing. How did you force out your back garden?
The stables out the back.
Okay.
But
so were you loaded then?
No, we weren't like that at all. Okay. My dad built them in later years. It was not like horses out the back. No, like actually me and my sister did jump the 2 ponies all over the garden when there was a load of snow, and we kind of thought that for some reason that their hooves and all the markings would magically disappear with the snow. But when the snow melted, the garden was absolutely destroyed, ruined. And like my dad came home and he was like, what were you doing? We were like, nothing. But the garden was destroyed because we were jumping the ponies around the garden.
But what did you do with the horses apart from...
Well, we actually used to take them to pony club and stuff like that.
Oh, okay.
So we loved the horses growing up.
Okay.
And I don't really much interest now anymore, because I got flung off them a couple of times, chipped pelvis and broken arm and stuff like that. I wasn't a bad jockey, like they were just bad horses. That's what I say. Like, it's the odd time as well. I rode off 3 of my dad's vehicles before. I was like, something wrong with them. It's not me. I'm a great driver. And you know what? My dad never gave out to me once. He was always like, once you didn't hurt yourself. Oh, you know, he was that kind of a man. He was great. But yeah, so we taught the 2 horses nothing would happen. The garden was destroyed. And then he actually did say, I'm going to sell the ponies, and we were an awful way. And we started trying to sell Babysitter Club books and Sweet Valley High books.
Oh my goodness, I used to read Sweet Valley High.
Yes.
Jessica and Elizabeth.
And then there was a brother, wasn't there?
What was his name? Todd.
Was he Ben? Todd!
Was it? No, Todd was one of their boyfriends, was it not?
Was it Ben the brother was?
I don't know, but I loved them. And then do you remember the film for Sweet Valley High came out?
Series. Look right down in a crowded hall.
I know.
You see, there's a beauty standing.
Series. Yes. It was a series with the two.
So good.
I had all those books. There was hundreds of those books.
Hundreds. I still have them in my room. And Babysitter's Club.
So Babysitter's Club, it didn't tickle my fancy as much as Sweet
Yeah.
Valley High. Because Sweet Valley High,
weren't
you know,
as sexy.
Jessica was a bit sexy. And
They were babes.
I identified with them. I identified
Yeah.
with the hunger for the men.
Yes, there you
As
go.
a teenager.
Am I allowed to say I met Mr. Fabulous?
You can say you met him.
I met him, won't say then, but I did, and he is fabulous. I should probably cut that out, but he is fabulous.
I won't.
He is fabulous, but we were going selling the books so we could keep the ponies. But he wasn't going to sell them at all. But we were selling them outside. We live in a little village, and like there was cars passing. I'd say people were kind of like going, what are the two of them doing at the front trying to sell books to hold on to the ponies? But anyway, so that's why we had the ponies and the horses. And I suppose then later years, the hilarious thing is when I look back on my addiction, I always wanted to be a pioneer. I was like, I'm going to take the pledge now, and I'm going to take the name Veronica to the bishop, and I'm going to be, I'm going to be a good girl. I never want to drink because my dad was a pioneer, and my older brother Niall is a pioneer. Just kind of did no interest in drink. And none of my immediate family kind of drink. They're not big drinkers. They're not against it or anything. Just not a big drinker house, but like I made up for the whole lot of them anyway. So at the age of 19,
You're like, I'm going to take you and I'm going to raise you 5 people.
Do you know what my success now being sober is? I take the piss out of my addiction.
Yeah.
But it's okay for me to do it. I was actually in the set of Coronation Street last weekend, and I took a picture outside the Rovers Return, and into the family group I kind of like, well, I go in for the one lads, the wink, and they were all just dying laughing, so I do that to myself. I have to, because a lot of, I suppose, you see people who are sober, and it's a hard life. It is a hard life. So I choose just to try and joke about it to myself. And that keeps me going. But I suppose so I did no underage drinking at clubs or anything. Like, I mean, I or discos. I was a good little girl. And then age 19, I remember I was at a wedding in Clarny, and I was going out with a guy, and I asked him to get a Diet Coke for me, and he gave me the drink back. And I remember I drank. I was like, is this Coca-Cola gone off? Because I was addicted to Coca-Cola as well from a very young age. Like my mother found, I'll never forget, my mother found 6 Contour bottles hidden in my bedroom, and I was only like 10 or 12. And she went mad, like, as in, because she didn't want me, I would say mad, but she was disappointed, because she was like, what likes in Coca-Cola, like, you wouldn't want your children drinking 6 Contour bottles a day, would you?
No.
So, like, I look back on that moment as in, okay, that wasn't good. So I suppose even I held on drinking that through later years, absolutely addicted to it.
Do you think you've an addictive personality then? Because it's
very much, I always got addicted to something. I used to be obsessed with the time, the clock as well. I used to be obsessed with time. That was within the timetable thing as well. If there was a clock in a classroom, I used to get them to have to remove it because I couldn't concentrate. I was obsessed with time.
Okay.
Like, if there was a clock, I'd nearly be crying, and they used to call me Mrs. Clock in school.
Jesus, kids are such assholes, aren't they?
There's Mrs. Clock.
But what, it would just give you anxiety, the ticking?
Yeah, I always used to think, this class will never end, this class will never end, this day will never end. I used to have a countdown every summer, like, to how many days until summer holidays. There was always something going on.
Okay.
It was always something
busy
going on.
mind.
Yeah, busy mind, and still to this day. But it was like, I look back and I go, Jesus Christ, you're just flat out, like, all the time, in your little head. And then at the wedding I was at, drinking the Coke, obviously being a Coca-Cola expert, I would know like a Diet Coke or a Coca-Cola or a Pepsi and all this. I said, there's something gone off with this Coke. This isn't a Coke at all. There's something wrong with this. And the guy I was seeing at the time was like, oh no, it's a vodka and that. And like, I was a pioneer. And instead of me being disgusted, right, that I had the drink, within minutes, I felt this anxiety lift. Okay. It was this feeling I never had in all of my life, right? And within minutes then, I was on top of a chair at a wedding in Clarny, dancing to Come On Eileen. Okay. And I was having a ball. And it was like, I always like the crack, maybe a small bit like more toned down. But that drink that night, all my anxiety lifted. It was like, all this shyness or this awkwardness, this like chip in my kind of shoulder holding me back, it was gone. Okay. It was gone. And then I wanted another one. So to say I was probably hooked from the minute I took that drink, for sure.
Because it relaxed you in a way that you'd never been relaxed before.
Yeah. And I suppose from that night on, it was like something went off in my head, and I'll never forget that night. I remember even what I was wearing. I remember everything about it. And then my friends that I grew up with, they had been kind of drinking here and there, and I was kind of like, oh my God, I'm drinking now as well. Let's go to Killarney, because Killarney was our main town. We'd go out and I would drink okay and stuff. I'd great crack. The way like you'd be you wouldn't need a cure the next day or anything like that. But I got through college and I studied media and communications, and I wanted to get into radio and television. And I went to Mary, I did that. And I went through college, went out, got drunk in college, like, you know, went into lectures. The next day I crawled in, but was still there. Wasn't really affecting me that much. But I suppose I kind of felt I was getting much more kind of flattering myself towards the end of 2008, because that's when I was graduating, and that's when the big recession hit. And I had wanted to kind of go to London and to like work in ITV or like BBC or something like that. That was my dream. And like, I suppose I thought when I graduated, like I thought like, I don't know, Sky News going to start ringing me up. All right, Brenda, we want you over here now. I didn't realise that it's a very hard game to be in. I didn't realise that like I had to work for it, you know, but the recession hit and no one was really hiring and stuff like that. And I suppose I was doing these odd jobs and I was getting bitter with the world that I'm not working in Donnybrook now, here now, you know what I mean? I'm not on 2FM. And then I suppose I started...
There's a job there now, though, probably for 2FM if you want to...
The way it is, there's loads of jobs going today, actually. You know, when I look back. But the drinking got way more. The thing is, I was back living at home and I started drinking in my room, drinking cans of Bulmers. And like, I'd be coming home from work and I'd park up the car, like up the side of a field and stuff like that, because I had to get the cans in. I had to get the drink in. I had to like...
So you'd park the car in the field, drink the cans in the car?
Yeah.
Near your house?
Yeah, near my house.
Home?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And did you know then it was a problem?
Well, you see, I was so young, Laura. And we're talking, this is back in 2009. You know, there was no social media. Like, I mean, if someone knew, like an alcoholic was someone like on the side of the street drinking out of a brown bag. There was no one my age that was an alcoholic. I couldn't tell my friends I was an alcoholic. I didn't really know I was an alcoholic, you know, because I had my whole life to live. My friends were engaged and getting married and they were teachers, and I was the one that then was doing these odd jobs. Like, no passion for my career. The whole London thing was gone. I didn't care about it anymore. And then I suppose I kept kind of... Then I had no interest in the jobs, and I was like, oh, look, I'll go off and do this now, and just making ends meet. But it was consistent, and I suppose my mother kind of had hinted the odd time, you know, maybe you might, do you need help, like, do you need to talk? So I was like, sure, there's nothing wrong with me, like, oh, sure, I'm not an alcoholic, you know.
Yeah.
And I refused it. But then I suppose the rock bottom... Were
you drinking every day?
I would have been drinking every day, yeah. Would have been cans of Bulmers. I love the old cans of Bulmers.
Okay.
And then you might change it up then, because you might kind of say, look, they can smell that, I'll do the all vodka because they can't smell that, all these little games. You know, and then you'd start hiding the drink here, there and everywhere. And then, I mean, with addiction comes lies and manipulation. Like, they go hand in hand.
Yeah.
And like, someone could say, were you after drink there, whatever you are, all right? You'd be like, no, I'm not after any drink. You'd smell it off me. You know, and like, that's not me. I'm a very open and honest person. Like, that's not me. When I look back, I'm like, who was that girl? But I suppose I was slipping into a bit of a depression in myself as well. But... I was so embarrassed. I couldn't tell any of my friends or anything like that, because I kind of felt they didn't want to be friends. They wouldn't want to be friends with me anymore, because they see Brenda as, you know, the joker, the entertainer, the funny one. Brenda couldn't really have a problem because I was kind of the one that would keep everyone going. And when they look back now, they're kind of like, we would have helped you. We would have been there for you.
Did any of them twig?
I suppose they were twigging, but I wouldn't leave them in.
Yeah.
You know, I started pushing them away. But my first rock bottom when I realised I did have an issue was the All-Ireland in 2010. Cork were playing down, and you know how hard it is to get an All-Ireland ticket. It is quite difficult, and All-Ireland Day is a big massive day, and my dad would have been a big fan in GA, and like, he'd go out of his way to get me an All-Ireland ticket, and he went off and got me an All-Ireland ticket. But I remember him and my mum kind of saying, look, would you mind not drinking like before the game? Could you know, because they were worried about me that I'd come up drunk or something. And I was, oh no, of course I won't. But I had gone to my friend's house the night before in Harold's Cross, because I was staying with her, and I had to go to Coppers, because everyone goes to Coppers. Like, I had to go to Coppers, and I said, look, I'll have 1 or 2 drinks in Coppers and I'll be okay. But whatever, I woke up the next morning in it, and obviously I had the hangover, and I was a great one for the cure. I needed the cure, like, because my shakes were so bad. I didn't know what was wrong with me, because back then I didn't know anything about DTs or anything like that, but my shakes were so bad. Like, I was wondering, why do I want to drink in the morning? Why is the drink fixing me in the morning? I didn't understand it, because you couldn't really go online and, you know, and I knew no one who was that same. So I thought, like, I'm really messed up. Like, I thought I was the only one in the world with this was going on. But I remember going into a pub the day before of the All-Ireland, and it was a pub off O'Connell Street, and I went in and I just said, I get a half Bulmers, and I don't know, Laura, I often think I spiked, because something the drink hit me weird that day. I was warned not to drink, but I remember walking up Collins Street and up towards Croke Park, and O'Gill's bar was there, and I was absolutely fucked. Stumbling, like just throwing off everyone, bashing against everyone. My sister and my mother were there, and they were just absolutely horrified. They were horrified, as in, like, what an absolute joke. They didn't think that, but, like, I could feel like I'm coming along. They begged me not to drink or anything like that. And I probably looked like I was out of it, that I was after taking drugs. And I never did drugs. But I was trying to convince them then that I was spiked, and the disappointment on their faces. And I suppose I look back now, my poor father's gone, and I get emotional all the time over this. I just get very upset that I let him know that. And it will always, it hurt when he was alive. And, you know, it hurts now. He would think, you know, the disappointment to turn up drunk at the game. And, like, my poor mother had to hold me up during the game. And, like, I was so big into Cork as Jay. Like, I mean, I have a Barry's Tea jersey. I mean, you know, that's your Dublin. So we're talking of the OG ones, you know. But it always just catches me, because it was like my dad getting me the ticket and the family event, and Cork won that day. And, like, I was too absolute drunk to even realise it. And do you know what? I would never forget my mother helping me come down the steps and everything, and getting the taxi back to the Ashling Hotel. And I remember I was just sitting there, and something was in my head. I was like, what an absolute joke you are. What an absolute disgrace. The biggest day you were waiting for so many years, and look at you stuck in the corner here. And, like, I was remembering everyone, like, celebrating, watching on RTE News, you know, all the teams were out having a great time, and there I was the loser in the corner with my poor mother and father after leaving them down. And do you know what? I felt so sorry, because they'd given me such a great life, and then they were after getting me a lovely All Ireland ticket, and I just felt like an absolute joke, a disgrace, useless. And I remember I just looked at my mother, and I was like, I just need help, like, I need help, I'm fucked. And then, luckily enough, she had been checking out Brewery, treatment centre down in Limerick. And then within a week, anyway, I got in. But, like, do you know what, that week then, leading up to it, I just tried to get as much drink as I could, obviously, because, you know, you're packing away. And I just thought I was going for a few days. So I packed, like, bikinis and everything. I was going to retreat. This is hilarious. And brought my laptop. I topped up my phone by €40, and you got €40 extra free at the time. Hair straighteners.
Oh my God, I remember those top ups.
Yeah, wow. Everything. Went into Brewery. My mother drove me up on the 27th of September 2010. I never forget the date. A week after Cork won the All Ireland, and I was going in being admitted, and he was like, you know, is it drink, drugs? And I was like, it's alcohol. And obviously I was lying about how much I drank. You know, he's like, how much you drink? I was like, a few cans here and there. My mother was like, a few cans. But I thought I was going in there to be taught how to drink properly. Like, there was no way I was still an alcoholic now, because I was only 25. You know, like, I had my whole life ahead of me. Like, I wanted to go to London and all this kind of stuff. But your man then, anyway, he was like, where are you going with all your stuff, you know? And I was like, well, I'm just here for a few days. He goes, few days? You're here for 3 months. And then he went through my bag, because he'd go through your bag, and he put out the laptop, and I was like, where the fuck do you think you're going? And then I was like, went and looked at my mother, and she was like, I had to get you in here somehow. So she had kind of led me to believe I was going in for a few days, but she knew I wasn't going to go in. But I remember promising her a few days, I'll go in for like a few days, and that's it now, and I'll come out, because there's nothing wrong with me. There's nothing wrong with me. But, like, there couldn't have been, because all my friends were getting married. They were starting off their careers, but, like, I couldn't. Like, I was the funny one of the group, you know what I mean? I was Brenda. Like, this stuff isn't meant to happen to me. So, and I went anyway, and I suppose I was still in denial about the alcohol. And then the funny thing is, as you know yourself, being a pharmacist, you're given Librium to come off the alcohol. Sure, I had never touched any kind of tablet like benzo, that. Sure, I loved that then. I was like, this is great. They gave me that the first week. I was like, oh God, this is a great life. This is brilliant. You know,
so they got you off the alcohol by giving you a titrating down dose of Librium. And then what were you like then post the Librium?
Oh God. Then after a week, then that was gone. I was just like, what the fuck have I done? How did I end up here? The disappointment, the realisation. I never forget, my family came up after a week, and they brought our dog Jake, who's still around. He's 15. Don't ask me how he's still going. What
is it about dogs? I'm convinced my dog is literally going to outlive the lot of us. Like, you know the way you see these dogs with like one eye and like 3 legs. They're still living.
Jake has 3 legs now. He can't, and I'm like, and the fact is, when my dad passed away recently, when my mom rang me, I thought it was, first of all, it was my own dog who died, Winston, and then Julie, my sister, thought it was Jake, and then it was my dad, and I'm looking at Jake, kind of going, Jake, how are you still around? How are you? He's still going. He's still going. But they brought up Jake, and do you know what? The disappointing in them, I think they actually felt sad for me as well. You know, like sad as in, Jesus, like, and of course my mother and father at the time might have been wondering, was it something they didn't do for me? Which, like, absolutely not, because they did everything they could for me. Obviously, you'd feel like that for your own, if something your own children happened.
And you see, I think that as parents, you always wonder, God, what could I have done better? It doesn't matter what happens to your child, but you know, sometimes it's just, it happens, and it's your personality, or it's, you know, whatever way your brain works, or and addictions can often be undiagnosed mental disorders too, like ADHD or OCD, or it's, you know, or depression. You just mentioned that, where you're self-medicating to make yourself feel a little bit better, or else sometimes you just get a taste for it and you love it, or your anxiety lifts, like what yours did, you know.
Yeah, and I suppose for anyone listening, if their child is going through anything like this, to reassure them that, like, it's nothing you've done. In a lot of cases, it's nothing they've done, the same as my mother and father. But I think it was like, I was the second weekend, and of course I was looking at them all kind of going, well, he's after breaking up with the wife now, and he cheated on the wife, and she's like, he's after
hearing all their
crashing
stories.
the car. Yeah, I was like, he's after crashing the car. I did none of that. Like, I was doing drink drive or anything like that. I didn't get caught for this. I didn't get sacked.
I went to a bloody All Ireland final and, you know, made a show of myself.
Sure,
but
not like these at
that,
all. But I'm not joking. It was like an epiphany one day. I was like looking at them, and all of a sudden I was looking at them all, and I identified with them all.
Okay.
I identified with them all, like people hide and drink, like inside in Hoovers and everything. And I was like, oh my God, I did that. I was doing all the stuff that they were doing. And then all of a sudden I was like, hi, my name's Brenda, I'm an alcoholic.
Wow.
And I'll never forget, it was the first time I said it, and the floods of tears that came out. And I meant it, I wasn't just saying it, but it was like a divine intervention. Something happened. I remember the room, I remember everything about that day. It just came out. And then the bit of acceptance, because acceptance when it comes to addiction, like, is the biggest thing, is to accept it, because you're denying it for years. So I went, and we got shipped off to an all-females facility then, which I was devastated over, because obviously you get codependent on people. I was in love with a few men down in Bury.
Of course, yeah.
Oh, I was going marrying somebody. I still remember his name.
And you're not allowed to get together, but is there sneaky
not.
Is there sneaky kind of
Oh yeah, there's stuff going on, all right. Like, but like, oh my, you're so, especially in Convera, like, no, because like it's a bit spiritual.
Okay.
And like,
I'd say
absolutely.
it's very easy to fall in love with someone though when you're doing something like that.
I tell you now, I remember where he was from and his surname and everything. And I found a letter recently to my sister. I wrote her back in 2010, and I was chatting about that, the same guy, and like, oh my God, the way he looked at me today and everything and all this kind of stuff. And I remember throwing notes at him, and if you were caught with anything, you'd be thrown out.
Yeah.
But the dependency, it was like, he's like me, he thinks like me, he's an alcoholic like me. Why can't we be together?
Yeah.
Like, it was like, it made sense.
Could you imagine if you were together as well?
But the people I met in treatment, I probably wouldn't have met in my life ordinarily, because I had met like people who, like, heroin addicts. I had met like people, sex workers. I had met, we'll say, I don't know, women who'd been, you know, victims of domestic abuse. I suppose my circle of friends at the time wouldn't have been with those people. Mm-hmm. But it was actually the biggest eye opener, was because we'd all addiction in common. And I suppose those people, you know, I saw them as, because, you know, in society you might think, oh yeah, but we were all the same.
Oh, yeah.
And some of those people I'm still friends with to this day and have the best time for. And you know what, it was showing not to judge. And I know we all judge in a certain capacity, but really it just opened my eyes. And that's from 25. You know, so that's from a young age. So it's the best learning curve, that we're all humans, and we all just went down a different path.
You're doing lots of meditation and lots of self-reflection and all that.
Yeah,
eating
like
good food.
Meetings, and you go in there really, really slim. Everyone goes in really thin into treatment, and then you come out a couple of stone heavier.
Okay.
Yeah, but then you see you could be prone to an eating disorder then, because you're putting on the weight. So
is it expensive to go into one of those treatment facilities?
Some of them can be like 10 or 12 grand for a month, but this one was actually you paid €150 and you paid out of your illness benefit.
Okay.
And then you topped it up.
Okay.
So it was like probably €200 a week, because we actually ran the house. So like, I was doing the laundry and stuff like that, and people would do the kitchen. So we did everything. So the residents run the house, and that's why it was so cheap. And what I saw with Convera as well, you go in there hating yourself, Laura. Like, you absolutely despise yourself. The second round of treatment I had, like, I can't tell you the hatred. It was a scary place. But you build yourself back up to love yourself again. You know, so that was kind of the great thing about it. Whereas other treatment centres, you know, they might be kind of like people, you know, families coming to you, and, you know, there might be conflict, as in, you did this to me like 10 years ago, you know, we had a big argument, and, you know, I hate you for this. They'll bring up the old past. Like, you're already feeling so bad about yourself. You don't want to hear it. You already know. But I don't think, for me at the time, I felt my mother at the time was like, look, she already feels bad enough about herself. You know, we'll get her help somewhere that she'll start to love herself again, which I did. I came out and I kind of understood myself more and I loved myself more. And I suppose I felt like the London thing was probably gone at the time. So I said, look, I'll just go off and try and get a job in radio in Cork, which I did. Went off and I got work. I think I was a bit of holiness in me then, because the Conver is very spiritual. And like I got a course, we went to Mass every day and I started nearly getting addicted to Mass again. Okay. You know what I mean? Like I was wearing rosary beads and everything coming out. I kind of like have to laugh at myself because I was actually addicted to Mass when I was younger. I was going to Mass every day so I could read at Mass or altar serving. There was always something, even Mass. I got addicted to Mass. So I came out of Conver then. I started going to a Christian.
I want to ask you what your addiction is now, because
What's my addiction? Do you know what? It's not even exercise or anything. I actually think.
Does it work? Can you ever stop working?
Oh, I can.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I can. I actually think I'm pretty okay now.
Okay.
The odd time I'm kind of like, looking at clothes and stuff, buying stuff.
Okay.
I'm kind of like, I need to, like, I'm quite okay, but it's I'll see something online, especially on Instagram, and it's the dopamine is coming. It's going to be like, don't do it. And like I see things probably in a different way. I wouldn't say I have the shopping addiction, but I would say I'm very aware of it. Because I will see something sometimes and my head will go bang, 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 bang. You have to get it. But I have to pull myself out of it again. You know, because I know that can easily happen to me. So I think I'm pretty okay now. The work-wise, no. And I had to be very careful with the gym thing as well, because I wasn't into fitness and I love my fitness now. For instance, for a while there, all right, I used to be like feeling a bit, my legs might even be sore from the gym. And I had to ring my mother kind of going, my legs are sore from the gym, but like I feel like I have to go to the gym today because I didn't do it yesterday. And if I don't go, then I won't be that high like dopamine Brenda, the good crack Brenda, because I won't get the endorphins. But my legs are sore, will I go? And she'd be like, no, because your legs are sore, don't go. I could spend an hour thinking, will I go to the gym, but my legs are sore. A small decision, but then I could spend 2 minutes making a bigger decision. You know, like a decision at work about something.
I think, you know, the way you're speaking is just lovely, the way you're so open about this. Because I think that people don't talk about the way they feel a lot of the time, and you're actually doing this. It's brilliant. Thanks so much for... I know there's going to be people that are listening to this that are thinking, Jesus, I'm a bit like that myself. And
I just want people to feel normal.
Yeah.
I just want people to go, oh my God, I think that, and I identify, and she said that, and I think that, and I'm not going crazy. Because for a long time, Laura, I thought I was going crazy. And then when I went into that AA room in treatment, I was like, oh my God, I'm not crazy anymore. And that relief that I wasn't crazy, like, you've no idea, it changed my life.
What's the A room? Tell me what that is.
The AA room, like as in AA.
Oh, AA room, sorry.
AA, the Cork accent.
It's the Cork accent.
Yeah, the treatment.
You're very fast speaker. So you come out after 15 or 12 weeks, did you say?
I was meant to go in for 12 and I did 15.
Good woman yourself.
I said next week, because it was Christmas.
Okay.
And I didn't want to come out of Christmas because...
The drink.
Well, just, you know, it's around you all the time. So I spent New Year's Eve and Christmas Eve inside there. And then I went to the second round soon, but I spent my birthday inside there for the second round. So
we're not going to talk about the second round yet.
No, not yet. But
so what I want to talk about is when you come out, what was it like then to not drink in social settings? Because that is tough, isn't it?
Well, I was still 25 and I was still very young. And you see, actually, the funny thing is, I had lied to my friends. I told them all that I was after going off to Italy teaching English, because I had done that a few years before. But they were kind of like, and no text, no nothing for like 3 or 4 months. And I was like, yeah, I just got out now and I had an Italian number, but they knew there was something not right. And then later time, I did tell them, and they were actually very disappointed. But they're like, so why didn't you tell us? But at the time, I was like, but I didn't think I thought you'd be embarrassed when I didn't want to be my friend anymore. And I couldn't be open to them. A big regret. And it's funny because since my dad died, I have since met those girls, and it's kind of brought me back to them because they came to my dad's funeral. And like one of them I met not so long ago, and she was probably my best friend growing up. And sure, I was in floods of tears, and I was explaining, you know, I was very bitter, resentful and everything. And then one of the other girls, I met her briefly at my dad's funeral, and she's coming to my dad's mum's mind on Sunday. So there's all that like in the past, but now it's weird because like they're all after coming back after my dad's funeral, you know, these kind of events. And I see that as my dad bringing them back to me after, you know, they were like my best friends growing up. And I get emotional over that as well, because like when I was looking back, especially one of my friends, of course I get emotional. I was like, I didn't speak to her properly for 13 or 14 years, all because I was resentful, and I thought that I was looking at their life kind of going, well, she got married, she got her dream man, I'm the alcoholic. Who want to hang around with an alcoholic? You know, I was Brenda, so I was like Brenda the gas woman. Great fun. She's great. I got the job in 96 FM after working in the Christian station, worked my way up there. That's how I learned my skill in radio by doing work inside a Christian station, and I was praying with them and everything inside there.
A Christian station?
Christian station, Life FM it's called.
So what, prayers and that, is it?
Well, it was funny because I never forgot I was praying with them one time, but I was praying and I was looking around. See, they were born again Christians, and I saw
Born again Christians?
Yeah.
You speak so fast. I'm just trying to keep up.
Sorry, born again Christians. Yeah. But like, I wasn't a born again Christian, but I was in there to get the experience of radio.
You were just
and I was praying with them and all. And I remember like, they were like, what are you praying for today, Brenda? And I was kind of like, because they were praying for like forgiveness and all this kind of thing. And I was like, my sister has her truck test there, driving test, because she wants to be a paramedic. Can we pray for her? They'll never forget.
And what do they do? They look at you going, what?
They're like, what is she on about? Do you know what I mean? It was a stand-up moment. And I was like, oh my God, the sooner you get a job somewhere now, the better.
You moved on to 96 FM.
Yeah, I learned that was volunteer work. But finally, I learned my skill in editing.
You learned your craft.
I learned my craft with them, but it was... And I was praying with them all, going, oh my God, you better get into RT someday. Yeah. You better get into art. And I was like, there was so much went on in there, and I still, when I'm in Cork, it goes to like Life FM, and I laugh every time I hear it in a nice way. The fond memories.
Yeah.
So I got a job at 96 FM with Neil Prindeville, and he gave me my first chance, and I'm always so grateful for that. I still speak to him about it because I always thankful to give me my first opportunity. And no one at work then, they didn't know about my past or anything like that, because it was a new life. I'd moved up to Cork. I was from Ballydesmond, little village, and there was all these new people I was meeting. But I wasn't going to tell them that I was an alcoholic or anything like that.
Yeah.
Because I wanted them to see, like, radio producer Brenda works on 96 FM at the time, and I was like, they wouldn't want to be working with someone like me, like an alcoholic. You know, they look at me differently, and you know. So I was going out and all that kind of stuff. And if anyone asks, like, why don't you drink? I was like, I just don't drink, you know. And every time I'd say it, like, I felt bad about lying. But everything was going good for a few years. And I suppose, to be honest, Laura, like, the back of my head, I was like, this is probably too good to be true at times. And I feel that I was getting a small bit cocky. I hadn't gone back on the drink or anything like that, but we'll say Snapchat was coming out then, and I suppose I was going on Snapchat doing the clown, as I would say, doing the fool, like having a laugh. And I suppose maybe my ego was getting a bit, and I will admit it, maybe my ego was getting a bit, you know, inflated, let's just say. And with that, I could feel my anxiety then, you know, going up as well. But I didn't drink or anything like that, but for some time I could feel my anxiety creeping back in. Big time. For some reason, a big time. But I knew I couldn't drink. I was after cigarettes. But instead of like talking to someone, because I don't want to talk to a counsellor or anything like that, you know. But what I did then was, in deciding to try and, you know, get rid of the anxiety, I said, you know what I'll do? I'll actually go to the doctor, because he doesn't know my past, and I'll just see if I can get a few Xanax and see how I'll go.
And he didn't know that you were...
He didn't know I was an alcoholic.
Okay.
No, he didn't. And like, hands up, like, I manipulated the situation. So I remember going in and I was like, yeah, I'm really bad anxiety, you know. And he was like, oh, listen, I'll prescribe you like 28 Xanax for a month, like take one in the morning, one at night. I think that was that usually what...
yeah, it depends. You know, some people can take one a day, some people take 3 a day. It depends on the level of anxiety and the strength of the Xanax itself.
Yeah, well, as soon as I got them, and I never forget him even, I remember looking at him writing the script, and one side of my brain was like, this is all wrong, but the other side was like, oh my God, I can't wait to get my hands on these. But I knew it was wrong. And I never forget parking outside the chemist in the Kinsale Road roundabout in Cork. And I remember going in, and I remember like handing it over, and then it was like, you shouldn't be doing this. Then the other was like, will she ever hurry up and give them to me? And I remember she passed me out, and she was like telling me what to do as prescribed. I said, oh yeah, no problem, whatever. I remember I got into the car, and I was living nearby, you know, and I hadn't even gone in home, and I couldn't wait to get one back. I couldn't wait to get it back. And then within whatever an hour or so, it was like that drink back when I was 19. This anxiety was just felt more easy. And again, when I was going to bed that night as well, I felt I slept easier. But the next morning, straight away, after being off everything now for 8 years, it was like, I need to get one of them again. I wasn't even probably feeling anxious, but it was like something clicked in my brain. You're after you've kind of ruined now not ruined, but like, you've disrupted the last 8 years. You might as well, you know, take this one here. And then, you know, you kind of go, I might as well take the month's worth now, you know. But then what started to happen was, as prescribed, right? Don't ever give anything to an addict as prescribed because we won't take it prescribed. What would happen then was I'd probably end up taking one to go for a nap when I got home from work, so the dosage was getting higher and higher and higher. And then what I started doing then with the doctor was I'd start like telling him that I was actually misplacing them. Could I get another script there? No problem. And then like saying, oh, they were in my dressing gown, they went into the wash. Jake probably took them a time. Jake probably ate them or something like that. There was all these excuses. But then as the excuses got more, I was kind of getting paranoid. So then I was like finding people that weren't taking them. And they give them to me.
So people that would have been prescribed them.
Yeah. And
how did you find them?
Well, friends in general, they'd be kind of like, oh yeah, I'm on the Xanax. And I'd be like, oh, and I don't need them, whatever. And to me as an addict, that's insane. Like, you don't want those. How are you not taking them? How are you not finishing them?
Okay. So and did your doctor not ever twig that there may have been an issue?
No.
Even with all the excuses and
no,
all that?
I don't think so. I don't think so. But that was getting I was getting more desperate and more desperate. And then what started to happen was, I remember I promised I'd go on a night out to a house party. And of course the Snapchat Brenda and the ego, I had to go over and be like great entertainment. But my anxiety was so bad, I shouldn't have gone. But like, I couldn't leave these people down because I suppose I wanted everyone to like me. I wanted everyone to be like, she's a gas woman, because obviously I had that little self-worth. I was depending on other people to kind of tell me how funny I was.
Yeah.
And I never forget, I remember going over and I was even shaking with the anxiety. Oh, when you're so bad with the anxiety, it consumes you. I never forget, I was at the house party and I was kind of quiet going, there, you're not yourself at all. I was, oh, yeah. And when I'd hear that you're not yourself, even to this day, I'm kind of like, sometimes I kind of, can I just not be quiet for a minute? Because I'm my own worst enemy, because I put myself out there as probably being, happy all the time, which 90% of my days I am happy. When I will show like a bad day on Instagram, I will. But I suppose I'm an optimistic person,
Glass half full.
Yeah, always have been. But I'll never forget, there was vodka there and a Diet Coke, and like, again, like that first drink I had back when I was 19, like going into taking that first Xanax, I remember kind of looking, I was at this little quinta, I was like, yeah, I'll have a vodka and Diet Coke there, throw it into a glass there for me. They're like, we've never seen you drink. I was like, yeah, we shall have the one tonight.
And that was it.
And then went down a very bad road from that night on. I was back smoking as well after me off them for years within minutes. And the relief, the anxiety was gone. And it was like, gas woman, here's now we're going to have a great time. Went out that night, and then the drinking was creeping in a bit, but I was getting away with it. I suppose I wasn't telling them at home. I wasn't going home. And if I ever was going home, I'd make sure, like, I hadn't been drinking a few days before and all that kind of stuff, and go out in Cork. If my sister or anyone was going out, like, I'd make sure not to drink that night and all that kind of stuff.
God, it's a very secretive illness, isn't it?
Oh, you'll be exhausted.
Like you just trying to keep that from people that are in your life must be exhausting.
Exhausting. And then who knows, I was back drinking and
paranoia as well.
Going out, and then like I might have met like my sister's friend on the night. I'd be like, shit, is she gonna tell her now? But then they were starting to figure out, because like I wasn't coherent enough. Maybe my mum might have rang me on a night out and might have been slurry a bit or something like that in my speech. But what's happening then was I was getting my hand on Xanax then as well. But I was probably mixing the Xanax with the alcohol because I wasn't getting enough Xanax.
And like, so dangerous. That mixture is so dangerous.
Awful.
So did you go down a darker road than you had been before with the alcohol?
Way worse.
Yeah.
And what the frightening thing is, the destruction was going quicker and quicker and quicker, because they do say in like recovery, once you go back out there is kind of like going back out drinking, it's worse. And even though you might be off something for 8, 9, 10 years, if you're off something for 20 years and you go back out, it's worse than ever. That's hard to believe when you're sober for so many years, because it's not like as in, maybe weight loss that you are off, you haven't eaten like, I don't know, chipper food or something in 8 years, and you go off and like have like a bag of chips every few nights. You're not going to pile it back on the weight so soon where alcohol or something like that. It's destruction. It just goes so quick. So after my 8 years, I suppose it took a couple of months then when it started rolling and things were getting really out of hand, where it was starting to affect work. I remember I was a judge in Miss Cork, and then I remember them like holding me up because I was so drunk. And, I was like, shit, they're going to find out in Red FM and they're going to know about me, like, being an absolute disgrace. And I was kind of getting away with it, but I'd say people were kind of, my mother might have been hearing stuff back home, but maybe was a bit maybe nervous trying to mention it to me or maybe confront me. So in my head, I was still kind of thought I was getting away with it. But I had a night I was a judge for an event in the Rochestown Park Hotel. I think there was like 600 people there. And I had been drinking and taking Xanax as well on the same night. And I just said, I'll just have one or two. It was always like, I never wanted to get out of my face. It was like, I just needed to quench this anxiety. And I suppose I didn't have enough Xanax to really zone myself out. And I didn't want to get too drunk. So I'll take a bit of this and a bit of that. But what comes is destruction. So I remember I had gone to that event and I got so drunk in front of the 600 people, I had to be carried out.
Okay.
And you can imagine now in front of all those people on social media and everything like that, you're thinking, so the MC on the night actually said, oh, do you mind Brenda? She's gone off to AA there in front of everyone. They all started laughing. Like, not everyone, but people started laughing. Well, that was said back to me the next day. Obviously, he didn't realise that I had been in AA.
Yeah.
But the next day, what I had to do, then I woke up and obviously there's the terrors, there's the fear. I couldn't take on the world and accept, own up to what I had done. I felt that bad, but there was a barrage of abuse coming into my inbox from people. What an absolute disgrace you are. You're a holy show. You should be sacked from your job. Oh, I'm going to tell them on Red FM about you. I'm going to tell your boss and all this. And Laura, it was just too much.
Oh
it
my
was just too
God.
much. And obviously I knew I'd messed up. But I suppose people just saw me, oh, it's the drunk, and look what a disgrace she is. She thinks she's great. I was all done up, and maybe as in the ego probably had gotten too big.
Yeah.
As we say in Cork, the notions. So then that whole day I remember just hiding out from the world. And what did I do? Of course I was drinking. I had to drink. And I was like, I'll have so many drinks now, and then I'll attend to the messages and I might say sorry to people, and I'll ring my mom. And I think then and then I thought my mother wouldn't know, but turns out then girls I was friends with who were kind of figuring out that, look, there's something going on with Brenda, they actually went to my mother to kind of, my sister actually, the girl I was living with was like, look, Julie, I just want to let you know, like, I'm worried about your sister. I don't want to betray her confidence, but, she's not well. Like, she came home from the event last night drunk. She's drunk here now and everything. Of course, when I found out that, I was like to the girl I was living with, it's like, how could you betray me? And she was worried sick for me.
Of course.
I was living in her house. But you see them as your enemies. And then how could you tell my mother about me? But I'm so glad they ended up telling my mother about me, because the next day, I was meant to go to work. It was a Monday, and I remember I was like, I can't go into work today. So I remember when the off license opened, got another bottle of vodka and I took a load of Xanax, and didn't want to do anything to myself. I just wanted to be zoned out. Again, I'll take a few and then I'll accept the world. I'll ring people and apologise. But there was no apologising, because I ended up inside in CDU in A&E, so critical department unit in A&E. I woke up, I had no idea how I got there.
And how'd you got there?
I actually accidentally overdosed. Yeah.
And who could find you?
My mother.
Jesus.
In the house, yeah, that I was living in, my friend's house. And we're still great friends to this day, me and that girl. Like, I felt so terrible, like, I'll go through that story soon, but like, in her house, my mother found me. Yeah. But the thing is, you probably would have heard people, you hear of accidental overdoses.
Yeah.
And I used to hear that term, accidental overdose. I'm like, how do you mean accident? But like, they were looking at me, like, thinking I wanted to kill myself. But I didn't. I remember my poor brother was sitting there looking at me. I was waiting for them all to kind of go, oh my God, you absolute disgrace. But they were so upset for me, and I couldn't get my head around it. I was, but they should all be eating the head off me. And then my sister was ringing me from Abu Dhabi, so sorry for me. My dad was like, oh, look, once you're all right, that's all right. Do you know, my older brother was like, once you're okay, Brenda. But I was like, why aren't they like attacking me? So I remember like the security guard and everything kind of looking in at me and everything, and I was like, why is he looking? My mother was like, well, they kind of thought that you like wanted to take your own life. But I was trying to convince them I didn't. It was an accident. So I got home then after that, and my mom had said to me, look, will you you might need to go to treatment again. And I had just gone back to Red FM because Neil had left Red FM, so I was going back to work with Neil. And then I was like, no, because I'll lose my job. And I wouldn't. And that was like, I think that was July 2018. And then I was good for a couple of weeks, whatever, but I never forget I found Xanax in my room. And instead of throwing them out, it was like, oh, thank God. Because this anxiety I was living with was just too much, Laura. Like, I just couldn't. I had gotten over the barrier of going back into work, the shame of, what happened at the event and all that kind of stuff. And they actually didn't know I ended up like accidentally overdosing work. My mum just said I was ill for a few days. They all know now, of course. But things were getting progressively worse. And I think March 2019, then the CEO called me in one day and he was like, look, we need to have a chat. And I was like, oh yeah, okay, whatever. And then basically told me that like, you're going to have to leave. Like, you're sacked.
God.
You know, for all the stuff I'd been up to. But I was like, but no, like, when he said to me, I was like, what? I was like, me? And he was like, yeah. There I was with him and the financial controller. Lovely woman. She had, like, looked out for me so much as well. But I was like, but you can't, like, but I promise I'll be okay. And I promise I'll cop on, but I'm okay. And no. So I said, look, Brenda, look, sorry. There's been too many mess ups and too many cock ups and everything.
Yeah.
We're going to have to leave. You go. Couldn't actually believe, I just couldn't, cause like, oh my God, this is going to be mortifying now because everyone's going to find out. And like, again, the ego, the embarrassment. So I went home that day anyway, and I remember parking up outside, and I just remember taking a load of Xanax, and I was like, I just don't want to wake up now. This is the pits now. I didn't want to again take my own life, but I just wanted to take loads that I didn't wake up. And I said that before to people, and they're all like, I understand what you mean. And I'm sure there'll be people listening to this who'll understand what I mean. And then I woke up and I was like, oh, for God's sake, why am I still here? And again, I just wanted to go again and go again. I hadn't even told my mother. My mother found out about a financial controller. She had told her, which I was like, why did she tell you? But she had been worried about me.
Yeah.
You know, she'd been worried about me. Sure, my mother was devastated again that I couldn't tell her. But the embarrassment was like, oh my God, I'm actually leaving them down again.
It's a cycle of shame and embarrassment, isn't it?
Oh.
Did you go back into rehab then?
Then I made up my own mind and I said, I have to go back in myself.
Did you go back into the same one?
I went to the same organisation but up in Galway.
Okay.
And I tell you now, you know about benzos, the withdrawal off them.
Yeah.
8 weeks of absolute hell.
Yeah, they're not good. And that's why it's so difficult to come off them. And that's why there's still so many people that are on them in their later years because they were put on them, say, you know, years and years ago. And yeah, it's they're not very nice drugs.
Horrific. Like, they're lovely to take, but to come off them, but you see that
they're not prescribed as much anymore. I will say that because there's been a lot. There's been developments for anti-anxiety medications that they often overlap with antidepressant medications, OCD medications. So the likes of escitalopram now will be given for anxiety. Really. So I'll be the first to admit, when I first came out 21 years ago, come out of pharmacy school and was practicing pharmacy, it wouldn't have been unusual to see prescriptions for Xanax written, like 60 Xanax for a month's supply on a regular basis. But by the time I had left 2 years ago, the prescriptions were few and far between like that. They were, 14 days or 14 tablets for a 7-day course. So, the world has changed, thankfully. However, it's still very easy to become dependent on them if you haven't prescribed them on, even a medium term basis. I would absolutely agree with you.
Yeah.
And then, it's tricky. It's also tricky for prescribers when they have people that they know are dependent on them to even try and wean them off them. It's very difficult to come off them. You said it was 8 weeks of hell.
Do you know what I did? Because I didn't actually disclose, and I did something really stupid. I didn't disclose how many I was on, and I actually was always more of a drink problem when I'm back into treatment. So I went raw, cold turkey. Sorry, I was cold turkey doing it. Could have gotten a seizure.
Did you not tell them that you?
I didn't disclose.
Sake,
oh, ridiculous! Oh, Laura, I know.
But even the rebound anxiety that you would have had, your skin would be crawling. No,
I actually would during that time. I went to hell and back. I said, if you can get through this, you can get through anything. Because where my head went, I could barely shower. I remember writing, will you ever laugh again? Will you ever smile again? But after a couple of days, the thing was, I had to disclose to him. I was like, look, I was like, didn't want to upset my mother so much anymore that how many I was on. I didn't want to disclose it. I was like, but I think I'm actually going to get a seizure, like, or get a heart attack, or like I need something. But they were kind of looking at me and saying, oh yeah, you need something. But I was like, no, like really, I'm actually in trouble here. Like I need something. And then I actually was like waking up, kind of going, like I was going to bed, thinking, am I going to die tonight? And then I was waking up going, you're alive, thank God. Luckily enough, they did, and they gave me, I don't know, was it Librium or something like that? But it was funny then because they gave me like a couple of days worth of Librium, and then I still was shaking mad and everything. I remember going into the doctor that I used to call once a week, and he was like, all right, so, and that's it, so for you. But I was like, oh no, I need no more Librium. He was like, no, that's it now. And I was like, but no, I need some. He was like, no. And the fear that I had nothing in my system. Nothing. There was like, and I remember going back to look at old diaries, like, you have nothing in your system. It was the scariest time in my life because like I was still shaking, couldn't sleep. I didn't sleep properly for 8 weeks. We had turns to pour the boiling water for tea because we run the house. We always do. And I was saying, don't give me that tonight because I'm going to call someone. I had people cutting my food because I couldn't use my fork and knife.
Yeah, it's very tricky, isn't it?
Absolutely horrific. It was.
How long
so
were you in
bad.
there for the second time?
I was there 12 weeks, but the 8 weeks I couldn't I couldn't cut my own food.
And do you, like, when you come out then the second time, have you continued up with counselling or anything like that?
Well, what I got out then, and what I've done since, I kept up my A and stuff like that. But my real thing now is for me, my exercise. I was never exercising or anything like that, but I realised during the pandemic, when the world shut down, because our AA meetings and everything shut down and they went virtual, and it wasn't the same. And I never realised with exercise that people actually did feel good. I always thought it was losing weight. But I remember during the pandemic, everyone were exercising. I said, I'll give that a lash. And I was using my friend's app. And I'll never forget the endorphins I got.
That's great. Yeah.
But I was there going, why didn't someone tell me this years ago? I always thought it was losing weight.
And I thought sex was good.
I know,
Jesus
this
Christ.
is it.
All I need is a spin class.
Yeah. But the exercise has been my saviour. That's why I need to be so careful that I don't get addicted to it.
Yeah. And can I ask you, actually, during those dark times, did you end up in dangerous situations with men because you were so drunk, or did you?
No, luckily enough.
Okay,
luckily enough, I didn't. No, I didn't. There was nothing like that, thank God. And you know what? Like, my mom, the second time around, she was like, Brenda, you want to hurt yourself? You know, and I remember ringing my mother, because we used to get a 15-minute phone call every week, and the uncontrollable crying again, like roaring. I was way down the hallway, and like people were eating their dinner, they could hear me, and they were like, what? And I was crying so much, how much I hated myself. But I remember my mom saying, Brenda, you have to feel yourself to move on. Like, my mother's an incredible woman. And then when she said that, it was kind of, okay, I can move on here a bit. And like, then I suppose I got out then, and then I suppose I was like, I remember my mom saying to me, like, you know, they were chatting in the family meeting about gambling. I was like, I want to get into gambling, no at all. But she was like, look, if the drink, the tablets, luckily enough, never illegal drugs, because Laura, I will say it here, I mean, how that didn't happen for me with the illegal drugs, like cocaine, hash, because I mean, at my
ideal
age group,
candidate.
Ideal like, candidate.
Literally.
I'm so glad it didn't happen.
Yeah.
But
I think as well, sometimes people's drug of choice does depend on, you know, their makeup. And you said from the minute you took the alcohol, the anxiety lifted. So if someone with anxiety takes cocaine, it probably is more likely to heighten it, or like make you really alert. Whereas, you know, a depressant will calm you down. So it's like the benzo will calm you, the alcohol will calm you. So cannabis as well will calm you. So it is interesting that people's drug of choice or drug of abuse of choice can sometimes be dependent on just their makeup, the way the way they get on in life as well. It's an interesting thing. I'm hugely interested in addiction.
Yeah.
I've done a few podcasts about addiction, actually. But so after the exercise became this thing for you, then obviously you started on a more healthier path, did you?
Oh, meditation, gratitude, all this kind of stuff.
So do you still do gratitude?
Oh, every day.
Do you? Okay.
Every day.
Because some people might think gratitude's a bit of a wishy-washy.
You know what the thing is? What I read something recently, like, gratitude is the greatest tribute to the dead. You know? And I know that was because I was like, you know, when my dad died recently, I was kind of like, gratitude and all that kind of stuff. Like, what's there to be grateful about? My dad's gone. Like, my hero's gone. You know, someone wrote
it's very raw
letter
for
to
you.
me. Yeah, it is. But I suppose I do love talking about him. But someone wrote to me, showed me a lovely card, and she said, it's very hard to lose the first man you've ever loved. And I was like, oh my God, it hit home for me. You know what I mean? And I suppose when he died, it was so sudden because he was so well, like, you know, he died suddenly. And I suppose...
How old was he?
82.
Oh.
82, and he passed away. He was been at the London Marathon and everything. So the exercise and the running and everything. So he'd been at the London Marathon.
Had
with
he
me.
ran it?
No, he'd run. So
Walked
this is a funny. No, but he was there watching my mum.
Okay.
Yeah. So what happened there was, I suppose, when done about the gratitude, I'll just go back to that. I do my gratitude still every day, and like, I'm grateful. Now I'm looking at grateful for what an amazing dad I had, and that I'm grateful that I have only good memories with my dad. You know what I mean? So that I look at it like the gratitude, and I still do it, even though with the world it could be like, my dad was taken from me, like, he was so well, and you know, of course you feel robbed that, you know, they went that way. But like, I've read something like gratitude is the greatest tribute to the dead. You know?
But isn't it also the fact that he died? I know it's an awful shock for a family. The fact that he collapsed and died so quickly for him.
And you see, do you know what it was?
That what you'd want for your loved one
Yes,
too?
do you know what the thing is? I hated the pain I might have caused him or my mom with my addiction. And I don't mind getting upset now either, but I suppose his last memories of me are at my peak, at my happiest in the city that I love, you know what I mean? And like, he had come over with my mom on the Saturday, and the marathon was a Sunday. And, you know, I'd done like a personal best and everything on the run, and he was there. And I had never posted my mum or dad on my Instagram ever. And everyone had been, you know, I'd say on our own podcast, the mother and the father, and the mother and the father, and on my stories, oh, the father there now. And, you know, they'd be more private than me. The rest of my family are more private than me. They're great cracking everything, but I'd be the Insta one, you know, the Insta hun. And I had just posted him and my mum on the Monday going, oh, these are the two people that never give up on me. And, you know, then he died 2 days later. And it's like, I know I look back now, it's like, at the time I was like, God, I feel so robbed. But like, I look and I think he just saw me at my best, at my peak, and he saw me doing my TV stuff. And as I said, I had always wanted to go to London, and I got my dream, and he was there and like saw everything, and he was just so happy for me.
Your biggest cheerleader, yeah?
He was, and he was my hero. I don't mind getting upset about it. Of course I'm going to get upset. It wouldn't be normal not to get upset.
But it's not even, like, it's a month on Sunday, isn't it? The month's
Yeah,
mind,
it's month's mind this Sunday, yeah. But like, I suppose, do you know, the one thing I'd change about the addiction stuff as well is probably just, it wouldn't change who I am, what it made me, because I do love myself now. I'm my own best friend. And because I went from hating myself, like the second time in treatment, I wrote down, like, I hate myself. Like, it was frightening how much I hate myself. I was like, will I ever laugh again? Like, the stuff I was writing about myself was horrific. But now I'm actually am my own best friend. Like, I love being on my own. I just love something. And I'm like, I'll always be okay because I've got me. You know what I mean? Like, I know I'll always be okay because I'm Brenda's best friend. But I suppose the one thing in addiction I would change is the hurt I cause my family or friends.
But I think that your family and friends are your family and friends for a reason.
They are. But if I could take away what I need, the pain, they're amazing. Like, I'm blessed, and especially my mother. No, she's a big fan of you. That's what I have to say. That she is incredible. Like, she is something else. And the both of them never give up on me, and they just wouldn't. They were always there for me.
But that's what,
you know,
families generally do.
No, they're amazing. But
I hope that you don't carry that guilt.
No, I don't. I suppose there's no guilt in that, because they never, even during all the kind of stuff that would have happened, and like, my dad never raised his voice to me, you know, and like, I was drinking upstairs in my bedroom, the height of disrespect in a house that, you know, my father was downstairs, he was a pioneer, you know, like, and there was never a cross word. It was always just wanting to look after me and make sure I was okay. That's the type of man he was, you know, and that's the type my mother is, and my sister, my two brothers, and now my extended family, you know, my sister-in-law is like stunning people, and I love them to bits, and I don't carry that guilt, and I get emotional because it's kind of like he saw me at my very peak, and it's kind of like he was probably like, she's okay now, I can leave her be, in a way.
Maybe that's it, Brenda.
I know, yeah, and I love talking about him because I know I got upset there. And that's okay to get upset, because as Irish people, it's funny as well. Do you know, when we do get upset, we're kind of like, I don't want to get upset now. But I kind of think, what's wrong with getting upset? It's not a sign of weakness.
But it's very cathartic, I think.
Yeah.
You know, to acknowledge that and what a big part he was in your life.
Oh, like,
and the first man that you loved, of course.
The first man that I loved, like, she summed it up, like, he was our hero. And again, like, I speak about him all the time. And I think people are, and I know it's very raw, but people are like, Jesus, you're talking about your dad loads. I have to speak about him more than ever, because I used to kind of think, what would it be like if one of them died? Would I be the type of person who wouldn't want to see a picture of him, or like to see his clothes, or to like speak on? But no, whenever I see his clothes, I'm going to get one of his shirts and make it into a teddy. You know, I get my dog Winston loves his socks, and I went washing his socks the other day to give Winston them again, because he always wants my dad's socks.
To chew them?
To play with them, yeah. He's always robbed them in him.
What about your mum? How's she doing?
My mum is good, yeah. But she's doing as well as can be. She's going to work. She's working away, because she was self-employed. She's self-employed with him and my brother. She, like, they own a motor factors business.
A which?
A motor factors, like car parts and stuff.
Okay.
So, she's incredible. She is.
So keeping herself busy, and
she's amazing. Like, and I look at my mother and I'm like, look at her, and if I can go on, if she can go on like that, I can go on. But it's funny, because I did get very upset last night with her over something, but I had come home and I got a message, and Laura, like, I got up yesterday morning at 4 a.m. to be up in I'm an hour from Cork City at home to do a bike row ski. It's in Dublin as well. It's this class for 6 a.m. Like, I was an hour's drive, got up at 4 a.m. to be there for 6. I'm up here in Dublin now, was doing our own few bits there, and then doing stuff later on, and doing another gym class in the morning in Cork with a friend. But I got a message from a girl going, "Hi, hon." It was something like, "Hi, hon. Don't want you to pick up this wrong way, but are you back on the drink?" I was so offended by it. I just feel there's something not right with you. She wasn't a troll or anything like that, 34 mutual friends on Facebook, but I was so offended. And I wasn't going to tell my mum last night because I don't want to upset her.
Did she send you that message just out of the blue?
Out of the blue.
Okay.
Not a troll.
Definitely not the best way to receive a message like that.
No, no, it was darling. Darling. Don't darling me. I don't even know you.
Yeah.
But darling, yeah, are you back on the drink? Couldn't believe it. And I was there going, of everything that I do, I would understand if I was slurring my words on my stories or acting erratic or not being on my Instagram stories or anything like that, or not going to work or not doing any of this. But I have been doing ABCD, every single one of them, trying to preoccupy myself with my exercise to keep me going so I don't slip back into drink or don't look for a Xanax. And luckily enough, the thing that I got so upset over, I think, because I haven't wanted a drink, I haven't wanted a tablet.
I was going to ask you, since he died, have you
nothing?
No.
And that's why I think I got so insulted last night, and that's why I was so offended, because I haven't thought about it. And then there was a few friends were like saying to other friends, watch Brenda now, watch her. And I was like, watch me what? Because I was so I'm not tempted to take anything. And then my friend said, like, would you go back on the drink? And I said, the resilience I've built up, I know it can happen tomorrow, but it's kind of like the resilience I've built up over the last number of years. And would I disrespect my father that much to go back on the drink? Really? That would be, like, gratitude is the greatest tribute to him. Alcohol would be the worst thing in the world. I speak to someone who's in recovery every single day, because it only takes two to make a meeting.
Do you? Okay. And do you have a sponsor?
Every day. I don't have a sponsor, no.
Okay.
But like, I speak to someone who's like-minded like me, who, as I said to you earlier, those stupid little thoughts, my legs are sore now, will I go for the workout there at this stupid, like, because I know she's thinking that kind of weird thinking like me, that my other, we'll say, so-called normal friends,
they wouldn't understand.
They don't understand, because they'd be like, but that's a stupid question. Like, I've one friend, I shared the room with her in 2010. Back in our first rehab, we shared a room and we talked to each other every single day. We'd be on to each other at 6 o'clock in the morning. General chat. You know what I mean? But like,
jeez, I don't want to talk to anyone at 6 o'clock in the morning.
Oh, like I might be going to work, like, this one is really after bucket. It could be something so stupid. And then 10 minutes later, like, she's actually grand. But you know, did you know the type of friends you'd be kind of like, you can give out about something and then you're like, oh no, she's actually grand, or this situation, it's actually grand now. Like a fella, you know, the way before now, Mr. Fabulous, who might have been like, oh my God, I'm sick if I'm breaking it off. And then he might be nice. You'd be like, it's actually grand now. But you know these friends who remind you didn't like him at all there an hour ago.
I know. So she's not like that. She
just
let
she's
you,
like, yeah, girl, he's great. I was saying the same to her and her fella. She'd be fighting, like, giving out about him all the time. And I'm like, yeah, I'm not into him now today either. Yeah, feck him and everything. And then she'd be like, oh, there, we just, we had a great night there tonight now. And I'd be like, that's great. Yeah, he's great, I'd say. Because we all need one of those friends.
We all need one of those friends. You're talking about men.
Yeah.
So is there a man?
Do you know what? As I was saying there, to be child free, I swear to God, the funny thing, I think especially in Ireland, like, I get, have you any man? Where's the man? Where's the man? What man? What man are you looking for? I don't need a man to complete me. And I'm not one of these, like, I'm an independent girl, I don't want a man or anything like that. If the right man comes, but this, and it's not since my dad passed, my sister would be the same, thinking like, oh, you only said I ever want a man who will, like, match the kind of man my father was. Yeah. And I haven't met him yet. You know, and I genuinely haven't. But
when we were first talking about you coming on the podcast, you said you wanted to talk about the dating scene and the kind of the online and the dating apps and how.
The dating apps.
Do you want to talk about that now? Or how bad are they? Because I've heard terrible stories.
Well, I was ghosted by a boyfriend that I was going for 3 years.
What?
In London, yeah, when I was 21. Oh, like, the worst things in the world have happened to me. Do you know I'm the type of friend that if a friend wants to ring, as in if something bad happened with a man, nothing's too bad, they'll just ring me. They're like, because it happened to her.
They're like, Brenda won't be shocked because it's happened to her.
Yeah, and he did that to me too. Oh, totally understand that. Yeah.
And someone will ghost you after 3 years.
3 years going out with him. Yeah, going out with him. He moved off to London. He's the same guy who gave me my first drink. I thought you were going to say.
He's the same guy who gave me my first herpes or something like that. Like, just something gas.
Luckily, I've had none of them, thank God, or anything like that. Yeah. So the dating apps. Oh God, they're wild. They're wild. Getting ghosted. Oh, one actually.
Lots of tasteful pictures of people's nether regions.
Yeah, I went on a date with an actor guy from a certain soap over in London, and this last year.
Go on, tell us.
I can't tell you who, but look, he was on EastEnders.
Okay.
And it's not not.
So, on what family in East
Look, he
Anglia?
was, back in the day, one of Alfie Moon's cousins.
Okay.
Relatives. So went on a date with
So
him.
he wasn't Grant then, no?
No, it wasn't Grant. Definitely not Grant. And it wasn't Phil Mitchell. I said at our podcast show, actually, I was like, do you know what now? Tonight I'm going to reveal who it was. And everyone was like, oh my God. I was like, it was Phil Mitchell. And they were like, I was like, it's a joke. It's a joke. Anyway, but so I went on a date with him in a pub in East London and was like, oh yeah, it's your man. No, it has a bit of a washed up actor now, like not on many things since. He's since gone back to a different career. But I was kind of like, you have the novelty of it. You're on a good date with him now because, you know, he's on a soap and he's handsome, but got up to go for a drink anyway and he never came back. And I have no problem saying that because when bad stuff happens, I'm kind of like, that's stuff the podcaster. Like,
and how long did you wait before you realised he
5
wasn't?
minutes. Around 5 minutes, and I was like, he's gone. He's gone. And the first person I'd ring then, if it wasn't my sister, because she was probably asleep because of different hours, she's in the UAE, was Julie. I call her Julie Twins because I've Julie, a sister, and Julie Twins. Then it's Julie Twins and me. So she was just roaring laughing. At the time, she was like, oh God, I'm so sorry. But I was like, look, it's content for the podcast. I was saying anyway, we'll on the podcast.
Well, I was working with a lady there for a while, and she was a lady in her late 40s, early 50s. So she was back out on the dating scene after being, you know, after building up the confidence because she'd had a bad relationship, etc. Anyway, and she said she was talking with this lovely guy, really lovely, you know, for a few days, and he seemed like such a gent, and they'd arranged to meet in a coffee shop on a Sunday morning or something like that. And this is all over the dating app. And then he asked for her number because just in case something happened, you know, and there was an issue with meeting or something. Anyway, so she gave him her WhatsApp number, and literally she said within 10 seconds she got a picture back of a dick pic. Like literally. And she says he'd gone from being like, she was actually so excited about the date, thinking he was lovely, and then he sends a picture of his bollocks. Yeah. Like what? But why do they think? But why do they think that we want to see that?
I don't know. And they do it. This is the thing. They do it. Or they'd be like, some guy now last week was saying to me, "Do you want to swap pictures?" I was like, "What pictures? Van Gogh, is it?" And he's like, "No, swap picture." I was like, "No, thank you." And then I knew straight away. I goes, "I'll go back in here now and check unmatched." I tell you a funny one. Before there was a guy going, "Send me a topless picture." I goes, "No problem." And I goes, "I get it there for you." And I found a picture of me like at 2 or 3 years of age with, out the backyard. There you go. He was like, "You stupid bitch." Then he blocked me.
I have a fake pair of tits that I put on me for my shows. So I think that if I was asked for that, I just send a picture of them.
Yeah.
But I don't understand, because I don't think a woman would ever think, I'm going to send a picture of my vulva now and really turn it. Like, we'd never do that.
But
But why do they think we want to see it?
They think they're going to turn us on. We're going to want them. But this is the thing. Like, my friend actually got one last week, and he's principal of a school. Oh yeah, and she's a teacher. And she was like, "Brenda, I don't know what it is." And she was like, "Squeeze it," and she's like, he was in his boxers, whatever. But like, I couldn't believe. I was like, "What is he trying to achieve?" And she was like, "He was so nice." And she wasn't like, the thing is, she wasn't trying to get him excited or anything like that. She's just talking to him. And he's like, "What do you think of this?" You know, but that's it. But then the thing is as well, Laura, like what I find as well, and we mentioned it, we were chatting outside earlier, like sometimes if like there's been times I've been on a night out, right, and I might have, we say in Cork, shifted someone, kissed someone, right, and they're like, "Come on, come home with me," and I'm like, "I don't want to go home with you, come on," and then like, "I don't want to go home with you." Then a few minutes later you see him going on the street holding with someone who will go home with him, and that's really embarrassing. It'd be embarrassing at the time. Like, it's happened to me, and I'd be saying to my sister, "Oh my God, your man's gone down the street with someone else," because obviously I wasn't going to sleep with him. You know, it's still like, "Well, fuck you."
It's unreal.
You know, and
I've heard someone theorise that if they send the dick pics, if they send them to 100 women, out of 100, one of them might react, and they're like, "All right, so she, you know."
Yeah, she's on. But I think that men match with, like, obviously I'd be more kind of like, "No, I wouldn't be into him." No, I'd actually like, no. But the men, the majority, like, for every 10 that I might like and swipe for on Bumble, the man will swipe for 100. Man will swipe for 100, but they're mad for ghosting, catfishing. There's a load of catfishing going on. They're all lying about their height. I'm going to change mine to 6 foot and see how they like it.
Or your boobs to double Ds.
This is it. But this is it.
So they lie about their height because obviously women like taller men.
But I don't mind a man who's my own height.
Yeah.
I'm only 5'6", but like, I'm actually going to change it. And then when they meet me, I'm going to like, "Why, you're all doing it? How do you like it? You're all lying to us." They all do it. Not all, but not more taller guys.
But don't women catfish too? Like, I mean, I know women that, they
they do
post pictures of themselves that are
much
nicer than they
and
look
they don't show the bottom half. And they do, and that's true. And older pictures as well. But are you aware of the page, Are We Dating the Same Guy?
I've heard of that.
Oh, it's wild.
And
it's
is
wild.
it actually they're outing people?
They're outing people, but they're actually outing people in a more like, he ghosted me, forget about him. And the man is getting slated. But like, he might have ghosted hers, and like, something else might have happened or something like that. But a lot of men's reputations are being destroyed very easily in a way.
Yes, was it defaming as well? Could
it's
someone
a lot
trouble?
of defaming. But then I've been on them, and especially the Cork one, and there's a few guys who have popped up who I have known are catfishers using someone else's profile, and I have commented going, look, know him from old. That's not him. He's not a guard. Julie, who I do the podcast with, she found out a guy was catfishing her through RIP.ie. Because this guy, and I was really sad, we were only speaking about it earlier, he pretended he had twins, and Julie has twins, and Julie's dad had recently died, and he was like, oh yeah, my dad recently died too, and she was in love with him. She was like, oh my God, his dad died recently, and I think his nieces and nephews, he said, were twins. And then he said he was at some funeral or something like that in Limerick or some business. Basically, he'd said someone who died, whatever, but it didn't add up. And she found out through RIP.ie, and like, he had lied about all that. And they love bomb you. Oh, they love bomb you. Oh, they love bomb you. You think you're made up, girl. You're married. They love bomb you. I'm like, oh my God, this fella, no, I can't. So I'm thinking about him. You wake up the next day and they're gone.
It's like a numbers game, isn't it? Almost. It's
game.
like as if there's two. I've heard them say that there's almost too much of a variety now. There's too many. Whereas, the way like years ago people would have gone to a dance and with like two people they could have possibly picked, and they pick one and that's it. Whereas now it's like there's like hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people. And then I've heard people say as well that you go on Tinder here in Dublin, and if you've been on it for a number of years, you keep seeing the same people. Whereas you go to London and there's this whole new.
Oh, it's a whole new pool.
It's a
whole new pool. Because when I come home, the odd time, like I said to Karen, my friend, I was like, because we were on it there the other night together, and then I was like, come here, I was like, I can't believe he's still doing the rounds, but I said, Karen, he's thinking the same about me. And then I said, you can put up on it new here, and I was like, I think I'll put up hi new here to this, but like they'll all be like, what the hell, we know her from old. So that's it is. But you know what, it's funny then, because you'll have a guy who'll disappear, and then all of a sudden, hi, how are you? Forgot I was on this. I'm like, no, it just didn't work out with her, and I'm second best. So you're all right, hon. I'm on to you. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, I've heard of that, where they keep you warm for a few days.
Yeah.
And someone actually, a friend I went to school with, who is a doctor now over in the States, she said she can tell when they're keeping you warm because they may not be overly enthusiastic with the text, or they may go a couple of days. So she goes, if they go 24 hours without texting me, that's it. I know that they're keeping me warm along with 5 others. So I don't want to be someone's second best.
When we think we're the only one, we're not.
Yeah.
There's loads more.
Yeah.
There's loads more.
And they're copying and pasting the same funny chat up lines as well.
The exact same thing. And a lot of them then, all of a sudden, they just unmatch you, or else you've done nothing wrong, and then you're just blocked. And you'd be like, but that's the thing. If there was a reason,
I don't think I'd be able for it. I'd be. Like,
it is hard going. That's why I'm just totally cool about it.
Yeah.
I go on the apps for the crack, whatever. But I actually get my anxiety goes to an all-time high when it comes on dates. A holy show, like, is in hiding behind trees.
Really?
Oh no!
Try and see who they are
like,
first.
Doing the emergency phone calls, pretending I'm on the phone to the friend. Every time that girl I shared the room in 2010, she's the one. I'll kind of just talk away there and I'll talk a load of shit there now because I'm seeing him there now coming down the road. A guy I met last week, went on a date last week, and I went up a hill saying I was getting the bus to the cinema, but there was no buses going up the hill. He was like, are you sure? I was like, yeah, I'm going up there now. And I started talking to myself going up the street and all this because I was so anxious. And then I had to run down the hill after to actually go to the station. And like, he was at the same station and all this, but like, I'm a holy show when it comes to dates. Like, I might come across as confident in, some ways, but when it comes to men, absolute joke. Me and Julie laugh about an awful lot on the podcast because she's as bad.
And what happens on a date usually? Is it usually just you meet for a coffee now or a drink?
Well, I would go for a drink. I'm not ashamed of my recovery or anything like that because it's.
Oh yeah, no, sorry, I didn't mean it in that context.
No,
I meant
I know
the usual thing that people do now, not dinner. It's more a coffee.
Well, it could be coffee, but I suppose what I would like to mention the recovery stuff and that, because I would have thought before, and I can't find out now I have a drink problem because he won't like me at all. He won't like me at all. Jesus, I can't tell him no till I'm a few weeks in or whatever. But no, if they said something, why are you not drinking or whatever, I would say I'm in recovery. And if you don't like that, mate, see you later. So last week I did go on a date with a guy. No, I just said, oh, I'll get a Coke, I said. And he didn't ask, but if he had asked why you're not drinking, I was like, I'm in recovery. And if he didn't like it, whatever.
Yeah.
Because it was funny because the guy I'm messaging from Sky News, I said to myself, I'll hide him from my stories, because I was a bit mad yesterday on them, a bit high, whatever, And I said, I think I mentioned something about the drink problem and that, so I leave him off. And then I was like, I'll leave him see that there now because I'm a bit normal today. No, there's nothing about it. My grid post is like a 5-year celebration thing on being 5 years sober. And I started to my friends kind of going, do you think he looked at it? And they were like, of course he looked at it.
Do you think so? Would men go down looking at
Well,
Instagram?
I looked at his.
Okay.
I was scanning his from back like 2018.
You're
So
like,
I'm
who's
sure
that bitch?
Yeah.
Who
was
are
like,
those kids?
She's liking that too much, I was
Yeah.
saying. Yeah?
Oh my God, so you do this investigative stuff.
Oh my God, we're FBI. You've none of that. Like,
No, I know, and that's why
it's exhausting. It's
yeah.
exhausting. Because life is exhausting, and then that's exhausting. So I'm happy out for myself.
It seems like an absolute whirlwind. It's
It
like,
is
why
a
would you bother?
whirlwind, yeah. Yeah, it is a whirlwind.
So what's next for Brenda?
So I'm happy.
You've got an amazing podcast.
We may have left on red. We'll give it a plug. I'm still a TV producer. I got my dream working ITV is good on Good Morning Britain as a TV producer, and I love it. I do that part time. Do the podcast all the time. Do a little bit of Instagrammy stuff. I do want to do more on mental health and addiction for sure, because
I think you should do some speaking. Did you do any corporate speaking at all?
No, I haven't yet, but I have done. I did a talk there the other night and it went really well, and I got invited to another one.
That's the thing.
And I would see, Laura, for me, for my message here before we finish up, I suppose with addiction, there's a lot of it, and it seems, you can't drink anymore, you can't drug anymore, you can't do Xanax anymore, you can't do this anymore. Like, there's a great life outside of it. They say in AA and in A and CA, like when I went in first, you live the life beyond your wildest dreams. My life was falling apart. I was like, go way out of that. What are this gang on about here? I was like, they're all mad. But even though my dad only passed away 5 weeks ago, I am living the life beyond my wildest dreams. That I am this well, that I'm sat here now having the crack with you, and real crack. There's nothing in my system like real happiness. Of course, there's that grief in me, of course, my dad, but real happy Brenda, as I said, my own best friend. And my message of hope is for anyone who is in the grips of addiction now, who feels like there is no hope. There is. For anyone who's new in recovery, who's like, I don't have friends or no one wants to go with me over, you will find your people. There's a great life out there, and there's an amazing life, and you can have the crack sober. Because you think oh my God, everyone's so miserable and they don't go to the pub. I'm always going into the pub. Yeah. Sometimes people are kind of going, I can't even walk down the aisle with the drink is in the supermarket. Go way out of that. You can't live like that. You can't go anywhere then. You need to be able to live. You won't be able to go on holidays or anything like that. I go solo holiday all the time. Time of my life. Meeting all sorts. I have a great time. So for anyone listening, I really want it to be a message of hope, that there really is hope. And those 2 rock bottoms I had made me. They made me the person I am. The second rock bottom, I'm glad it happened. And even though it was terrible, lost my dream job and everything, I actually got rehired from my job that time. I meant to mention that Red FM came back to me because I started working with RSVP online in the Sunday Mirror, and I was getting front pages, and they actually came back and rehired me because they had seen, 6 months how I had turned my life around. And then 2 years later, I went off and I was like, I'm going to do the London Dream, and it's never too late. And again, my message is it's never too late to go for your dream. And I'm doing that now. I'm doing what 24-year-old Brenda wanted to do, but the addiction took her. As my mother says, I went off Google Maps. I was in Google Maps, I went off road for a while, and I'm back now. And I look at it that way. So definitely, I do want to get into the, doing the speeches, but a message of hope. That's what I want.
Yeah.
And for anyone listening, what I found doing it is, people don't understand addiction. They think that I wanted to be downing those Xanax, I wanted to be doing this and that. But I want people to understand it's not a lack of willpower or anything like that. It's your addiction takes over. Mm-hmm. You see the best of people there, and they can't stop drinking. They can't. It's something goes off. It's for me, it's a chemical imbalance for me that goes off in me. If you and I go down to the pub there now, we'll have a drink. It's not actually the physical addiction of the actual alcohol. Something will go off in my head. It's you've undone the last 5 years now again, so you may as well go all out. It's not the physical addiction. And
is there a fear there?
There will always be a healthy fear.
Yeah. Okay.
And the second time,
I like the way you call it that, a healthy fear.
Yeah. Always. I hope to God I'll never drink again. Can't say I won't. Sometimes I often hear people going, I'll never drink again, and it unnerves me. I hope I never drink again. You know, and the last thing when I was saying goodbye to my father, I did say, I hope I will never drink again. And that was the last thing I said to him when they were like closing the coffin. That was my last, because I didn't want to leave him down. And I think again that's why I got so upset. That was like I couldn't leave him down. You know, so I hope to God I never drink again. But obviously it's an ongoing process and I'm growing with it. And then it's made me the person I am. It has made me the person I am. And I'm a nicer person. I'm a better person. I've empathy. You go and get empathy by going through stuff. I had no empathy before. Compassion. I've learned all these skills. I also qualified as a life coach last year. So hopefully in time I want to like work with people coming out into recovery, like building them back up to the world, that you can get that life, you know, that you always wanted, or you can make up with those family members that you hurt. Because people as well in families are very forgiving. You'd hear stories there where, like, I don't know, a husband's broken up with a wife because she wouldn't stop drinking, and, you know, the kids are gone and all that, and she'll show them like 6 months of recovery, and they'll say, do you know what, she's willing, the families are back together again. Yeah. Families and friends, as you said, are very understanding and very forgiving. Everyone just wants to see someone well.
This is so true.
You know, so I hope to do more, kind of just get into more kind of corporate stuff and speeches and just talk.
I can see it.
Just a message of hope. I know
that you speak about hope, but like, apart from what we've spoken about with the addiction and hope, what advice would you give young people today?
One thing I would say is, if you feel that you're too young, you know, maybe to have an addiction or anything like that, and it couldn't be, like, that's the thing for me. Like, I suppose I was drinking alcoholically from the first time I ever drank.
Okay.
And I think, like, you're never too young and stuff like that. And there's no shame. Don't make the mistake I did and cut off your friends, cut off your family, because it was very, like, almost, it was like an embarrassment. But when if your friends find out that you didn't tell them, and they're like, I would have helped you. I get an awful lot of that now. We would have helped you. That, like, I feel so bad about that the help they could have given me, and maybe how different things could be. So there's always someone willing to listen. That's the one thing I would say. Talk to people. And I know people go on about talking. It's okay not to be okay and all that. But there's always someone willing to listen. Always. And they want help. And if you know yourself, if someone tells you a problem, you're not going to ignore it. If you met a woman going down the street with a problem, Laura, your instinct is to help them. We all want to help someone. And I actually think if you're looking for help from someone and they're asking you for help, it's the biggest compliment ever. If one of your friends go, I'll ring Laura there because I know she'll help me, you're like, oh my God, like, she can confide in me. Like, it's the biggest compliment ever.
Yeah, you're right. It absolutely is.
And that for me, like, if someone rings me now, they have a problem, I'm like, oh my gosh, she rang me. Because if I felt that I'd feel terrible if they felt they couldn't tell me. I'm like, why didn't you tell me? You know, I know I would have helped you. So certainly that. And look, I'm not going to go, don't drink too much. People are going to do what they want to do. Brenda, here pontificating isn't going to change that. I know that myself. People are going to do what they want to do. So I suppose just know there's always someone to talk to. There's always someone to talk to, and people they'll take compliment if you want help off them. That's one thing I would definitely say.
Okay. And what's the meaning of life?
Meaning for life for me. And I said, meaning for life for me is to be at peace.
Yeah.
Is that okay?
It's what you say it is. So yeah.
Meaning for life to me is being at peace after being so unhappy with myself, being a prisoner in my own mind for years, and now to be at peace, because in the life coaching course, we had to write what's like success to you. And like, people were, success was to have a big car and like a good business on it. And I just said, success to me is peace of mind. Yeah, and that's genuinely it, and like, to be happy. Like, there's days when I've like been the poorest I've ever been when it comes to stuff, you know, wealthy, like money wise, but like so wealthy in my mind. And like, that's what I'd prefer any day. You know, to sit in my little flat in London and just to, you know, be happy out sitting on my own, just watch a bit of Netflix and go, this is great, isn't it? I don't need anything else more in the world than this, and just have the peace of mind and go to bed sound asleep that night and happy out with life. That's for me, meaning of life.
Oh, Brenda, that's lovely. It's been such a pleasure having you on.
So lovely, Laura.
I want to get you back. Definitely. You're just
fabulous, and thank you.
So full of info. I think that people are going to get so much from it.
And for people, you don't cut this out, but for people that are listening, you're even more stunning in real life, and even more like you're just a beautiful human being, and the energy you have, because you're all about energy as well.
100%.
We're all about
I'm
energy.
one of those endorphin chasers when it comes to the exercise.
Give it to me. Give it to me. Actually, I'm setting up a running group, and it's from endorphins to endorph friends.
Oh, I love it.
Isn't it great?
You should trademark that.
I know. Don't
Something.
anyone steal that there now, because I have it on my running page, but I haven't launched it yet. Yeah,
Okay, that's brilliant.
friends.
We'll give it a plug then when it comes out. Thanks so much for coming on.
Thanks, Laura.